activism?
So it was activism that led me back to my tradition, because I left when I was 6 years old, left Aotearoa, being raised by my grandparents, being the firstborn of my mother, and I was raised with my Aboriginal whānau in Australia. So I grew up in Australia most of my life, and living on the east coast of Queensland, I really started to connect to the ocean quite a lot and got into surfing, and really started to form that relationship with the moana, the sea, again, and my dreaming started to awaken my relationship with the tohora, the whales. And that was quite an epiphany in my life, this dream one morning. And it led me on a whole journey of knowing that I had to protect them, and do whatever I could do. I was just a single mum at the time with 2 boys, and I just had to do something. So I would go into schools and speak to children about whales and looking after our ocean, and creating events in the park where we gather and just create awareness around what was happening to them. And we started off with this fight for 50 whales we wanted to save on the migration from Antarctica to Gari, which was Fraser Island in Queensland, where they safe haven. And it was in that process that it started to just grow this whole energy in itself, where the media is involved, and you're doing things that just kind of get thrown at you, and you just take it on because that's just your passion. You're meant to. And then I quickly realized that because I was working with such big energy, and I was feeling quite depleted, and there was this calling inside me where I really wanted to bring forward parts of myself that hadn't been actually filled, because I'd left when I was a little girl. But I'd heard it from my grandfather, who used to chant these karakia, these Māori language chants to me every night before I fell asleep. So it was in me, but it wasn't fully activated because I had left. And I knew that if I wanted the strength to carry forward, that I needed to go home and find these foundations. One, to protect myself for, the unknowns. And 2, to call in that higher energy of our tipuna, of our ancestry, to walk with me, to have my back. And for me to know that was to find my language, to reconnect to my maunga and my rivers and my family, and to walk that where they are buried. And so it was a process of then reconnecting back to my culture and reviving my ancient practices, especially the karanga, which literally means to call. And that is what we do as women when we call to the beyond, when we call beyond the veil of our ancestry to be with us. And I wanted to embody more of who came before me and who I truly was before I went back out to do the big fight. But in that reflection, I realized that it wasn't all about fighting, actually. It was all about a shifting of my own frequency and my own awareness, my own relationship with the elemental world. I never really grew up with my elders As I mentioned, I grew up in Australia, and so it was always hard for me to find any relations that spoke Māori, that spoke te reo, or knew the karonga. I hadn't heard it for 20 years. The stories for me weren't directly passed on like they may have been for my cousins. And through colonization, there was a lot of blockage where we lost our moko and we lost our language. But today it's such a revival. It's so, so very strong. But as far as prophecies, I can't think of any that I would want to share right now.
What is the role of ceremony for this day and age to you?
What is the role of ceremony to me?
Yeah.
I think the role of ceremony to me is about knowing who you are. It's about remembering who you are. And it's about the practice of bringing back those old and ancient parts of ourselves. And, some of us have had that passed down directly, and some of us have had to intuitively arrive at an inner knowing and walk forward and keep practicing what the little piece of the vine that you may receive. I've only got one little piece of it, but I will treasure that piece and I will practice that as much as possible so that it is a living, breathing practice that is seen and heard and felt by others. And ultimately, I believe that ceremony comes from my heart to yours.
I feel the same way. What is the role of sacred sites for you at this time?
It's interesting because at the moment we were moved on from our last living space, and we were drawn and given refuge 3 hours away, which was not a choice of mine. However, later on, after this journey has unfolded, it's come to my realization that we had moved to a place where it's called the Gympie Pyramids, where it is a sacred site to the Gubbi Gubbi people on the Sunshine Coast of Queensland in Australia. And they've been fighting for that sacred place to be kept as it is. And then I find myself being called to walk with other elders to sacred sites. And there was a time when I was kind of going, me? Why am I? Why they call why me? Oh, God. Well, if they're calling, then how could I say no? I'll just support as however I can support. And in that, it's kind of taken a few months to integrate what am I actually doing? What are we doing when we go to these sacred sites? And some could say that, yes, we're going to these sacred sites to activate them. No, we are not. They are always there, have been forever. I believe we're activating ourselves being in these places. These star alignments on the planet, ley lines, grid lines that we're walking that help our DNA inside us remember and wake up. And I think from that awakening within us, we then go back into our communities, and the ripples start to then go out in small ways. However, that is, a ripple is a ripple, no matter how big or small. And I think it's a number of ways. On the individual and how it starts to come out into a community and in their own personal work, and how that just expands the work that you're already doing. So it has for me anyway. I came home feeling like I really wasn't doing enough. Like, you know, you can get complacent and you can watch the Netflix and you can scroll your life away, but I think these walks really remind us that our time is short and that our children are waiting.
Yeah, I get chills over here. Anyway, how best can we live in order to restore harmony on the planet?
I think if we live my partner teaches me the answer to this question, and he's taught me so very much about life, actually, and I believe it's patience and unconditional love, non-judgment on ourselves and one another. Can you ask that question again, please?
Yeah, how best can we live in order to restore harmony on the planet?
How best can we live to restore harmony?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't write these questions.
No, that's okay. How best can we live to restore harmony? I think maybe we have to be in harmony to restore our lives. So if that is to walk our purpose, if that is to do the work that really speaks to our heart and our soul, I think we have to find the courage to do so that we feel fulfilled, so that we are being of service to something more than ourselves. And that when we do the work that fills our heart, then we just go, yes, I really, if money wasn't an issue, what would I want to do? I know I was meant to sing. I was meant to share my voice. My entire life I've felt cut from my truth, and it's been a journey for me to actually bring that back to life and with full force and unconditional self-love, so that I can feel like I'm doing something with my life, you know? And if I'm doing that, then I'm naturally happy, content, and then so is my family. So are my children. I take my children with me when I work. My daughter's always sitting next to me. She's got a little chair sometimes. She's holding my hand, taking her with me rather than, you know, giving her to a friend to look after her while I go and do my thing. No, it's come with me, see it, hear it, practice it. Sometimes she does a little karanga herself, you know. And I think, you know, getting to an age where I don't think I'm getting any younger. I'm closer to my 50s soon. And you kind of hit a point where you go, what am I going to leave behind? And it's my children, you know, and how are they? How do they think? Am I just shoving them in front of a TV? You know, am I taking them for walks outside? Are we walking together? Are we doing this together? So I think for our own health and wellness, we move as one, as a family. We honour each other's gifts and support each other as much as we can.
I like that. It's like she's a little baby. She can sit there and eat
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
If in 100 years from now, you were watching, all right, if 100 years from now and someone was watching you right now, what would you like them to know?
What would I like them to know? That the world is yours, that the world is ours. And I mean by ours, many, 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 many creatures. And find your relationship with them to find your place in the world.
What would you like to tell the United Nations about the state of the world?
Could we get a move on, please, with the state of the world? Delegates of the United Nations. Oh gosh, I was going to start swearing.
Go for it.
Can you get your shit together, please? Like, really, I really believe that the voices of the First Nation people are tired of waiting and playing these silly games. And let's all just, I don't know, I could just go on. I feel very challenged by this question because it's COP27. And does that mean they've been uniting for 27 years? And what changes have really been addressed, really been made? Or are we just tooting along on a string because it's getting worse so much faster than we could ever imagine? When we have big companies like Coca-Cola and such funding events like this, you've got to ask who is really behind this whole agenda of the United Nations gathering for climate change. I believe that we must listen to our elders of original nations. It's time. It's time that we listen to our Indigenous elders of the world, because this is where the answers lie for us and our children and our grandchildren to have any kind of future, of clean water, of safe haven to grow and be nurtured.
Do you have any messages for your own government?
Step aside.
Do you have any messages for Indigenous people who will be watching this?
O ngā tangata whenua, people of the land, stand up and use your voice now. It is time for action right now to use our Indigenous voices to create the change that we need to create. We also respect our other brothers and sisters, and yes, we are one. However, my Indigenous brothers and sisters, please use your voice. Use your voice and take action in your community in whatever way that you can that brings health and wellness to your people.
So great. I got chills multiple times. I love when you speak truth with such power. I just want to fucking get up and
Yeah, well, I was trying not to really go on.
That's what I want.
Compose yourself a little bit.
Would you mind sharing a song for us? Or a
song?
call?
Yes.
Or whatever you would like, whatever you want. Do you want me to record this?
I'll just share my koala. And a song.
Do me a favor before you get started. Can you give me a audio check so I'm not peeking out? Good. Just want to make sure you're not clipping, getting too loud that the microphone can't pick it up. Sounds good though.
So, So I'd like to just share one of our traditional instruments called Whaia. It's made of clay, and it reminds me of Hine Ahuone, the first human in our creation story. It was a female. It came from the sands of Whaia, the pubic region of Papatūānuku, our Earth Mother.
I think there's some folks back home that would love to hear that. Do you mind if I share it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. That was great.
She died. And when we got to Hawaii, to the Big Island, I felt like I'd been home. I'd been to Oahu before, but when we went to the Big Island, I felt like my waka, my canoe, had left from there. And then we were taken by Kalani to Pele, and he took us to a sacred women's place and guarded the gate while we went in. And I shared it there with Pele, and then I put her in a safe place. When I finished, I bent down to pick up my other sacreds, and she rolled out and went around the rim and sat right on the edge of this steaming vent. And I started to go all in my brain about how, oh, I can get it, I'll just get a stick. Oh, yeah, it's okay, she just wants me to tell a story. I was making up all these things in my head about how I could save it and, how I could just reach for it. I tried. I nearly burnt myself trying to get it back. And then I'm trying to put my foot on the edge, and the sand's sinking in, and the sisters are freaking out on me, and they're like, oh, fire, fire, fire. I'm like, no, I've got this. And then I had to realize that she needed to go back to the earth. So 15 years of ceremony with that one piece, and the last thing my auntie gave to me, which activated my whole connection back to my ritual practices, went back in March to its original place, which then made me realize that I must make another, and that I must keep the practice alive, and that I must show other women and teach.
Amazing. Got anything else you want to ask?
Is there anything that you want to add that we hadn't covered yet?
What haven't we covered?
Maybe there was something when you knew or found out you're coming here, something that you thought you might want to express that you haven't already.
When I found out that I had been invited to walk with Earthrise, it made me realize that I have got something to share, that I have done the work, and that it has been almost 20 years of reclaiming myself to get to this point to share, and that I am enough, and that I don't have to be an intellect. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to know all the songs. You don't have to know the entire language of your people. You know, you don't have to be recite everything to be part of the collective of change. All you have to have is here.
I remember the first time I heard you sing on Mount Shasta, and I started to cry.
Oh, that is a karanga. Yeah. Yeah.
Walking in that snow.
I could share about the karanga. That's quite important.
Yeah.
It's one of the most awakening practices that's been for my life and for others, as you just shared, that it cracks open something inside you. The karanga is the voice of a wahine from not the brain, not the heart, but the voice of the womb space, the voice of place of pure creation. And it's channeled out into the world of the living, breathing here and now. And we're calling beyond the veil to our ancestors to be with us and to open a space, to open the space not just as a literal sense as an event or something to share, you know, because we're celebrating the birth of a child. We call to our children when they're born. So it's the first thing they hear. We call to the elemental realms and we wait for the feedback in our lives to unfold. And we call for our dead, for our passing, and we call to celebrate. But in that karanga, the aim is to crack open the punaroi mata, to crack open the wellspring within, and to release the tangi, to release the tears, for healing to flow. Mostly you will hear the karanga on the marae, when we gather for a tangi, when we gather for a passing of a loved one. And these practices that have been given to us by our ancestors are put in place so that we can heal. And, you know, the Western world, when their loved one dies, you go to a room in a place for an hour, you share a few notes and then you leave. We sit with our dead for up to 5 days, more sometimes. And to be sitting around our vessel after the spirits left is to learn not to be afraid of death, not to be afraid that our loved one's gone home, and that acceptance that we all take that path, instead of trying to block it out, or, you know, and that understanding and that awareness can help us move through life with grace. Yeah. So I'm so grateful to have reconnected with those parts of the practices, and now have been asked to support others in that tangi process, in the passing process. It's not something I put my hand up for, just something that's been asked of me from time to time. And yeah, if you're called, then you must go.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. That was good.